Greetings and welcome back to the channel. If for the first time you're coming across my channel, please remember to subscribe. So today I want to ask you, what is a catastrophe bond? The question today is, what is a catastrophe bond? And the reason I ask that is, after the hurricane and the level of this hurricane and the catastrophe I believe it brought, I came across a video explaining what is the level of catastrophe and what would cause something called a catastrophe ban to be triggered. So there's an economist that will come on the program or come on that program to break it down. So I want to bring it on this program. So those who did not see it on that program could now see it on this YouTube channel. So let's go straight into the video and hear what the young man have to say about what is a catastrophe band and how it works. Let's hear.
What is a catastrophe bond?
So a catastrophe bond is really just an insurance instrument, but it doesn't work like traditional insurance. So with traditional indemnity insurance, let's say there's damage or loss to your car or house, you have your loss adjusters, they come into the field, they assess the damage, they determine what the actual payout is, and that could take months. With a catastrophe bond, it's called parametric insurance. What that means is that you have to satisfy certain parameters. In this case, it's the intensity of the storm as measured by its atmospheric pressure and the path of the storm that goes through a specified defined area. In this case, the catastrophe bond would have been triggered because the pressure of Melissa was so low that it was lower than the lowest threshold applicable to any of the grids that overlay Jamaica, which determine what the payout is going to be. And the path passed through around 3 to 4 of those grids. And it was so severe that it triggered a pre-arranged amount of money of 150 million US or 24 to 25 billion Jamaican. And even though there is some calculations still need to be done, it is highly likely that we'll get all of it. Okay. It is dependent on how many grids are breached as well as the intensity of the storm. So the lowest minimum threshold that can pass through any of the grids overlaying Jamaica, and I should explain that Jamaica, for the purposes of determining a payout, is divided into 19 grids and the surrounding waters as well. Now, dependent on how many of those are breached and the intensity of the storm passing through, that determines the payout. So for Melissa's pressure was 892 millibars. That's well below the pressure that is applicable at minimum 920 millibars. It's the same reason why Beryl did not trigger it, even though it passed through some of the grids, the pressure was a little higher. However, in the past, if there was a catastrophe bond, then Gilbert would have triggered it with a 70% payout, Dean would have triggered it with a 92% payout, and Ivan would have triggered it with a 100% payout.
Yep.
So it's the same.
But it wasn't there. We didn't have it before.
The government decides, because the money there's no restriction on how it can be spent. But because of the immediacy with which it's available, it is expected that it will go immediately towards emergency relief, because there are 3 broad phases. There's relief in the short term, there's medium-term recovery, and there's long-term reconstruction, which will take years. So that's over several budget cycles. The government will have to budget for it. They'll have to readjust and reprioritize year on year to facilitate some of that long-term reconstruction. In terms of whether we have to pay it back, no. So it's not debt. It's not something that we borrow. It's not something that we need to pay back. It is just money that is insurance, basically. So how it works is that the World Bank arranged this bond. It was placed on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange, and they act as an intermediary between Jamaica and global capital market investors. So investors see the bond, they invest in it, they give their principal to the World Bank, they hold it, and in the event that it is triggered, that principal comes to us. We, Jamaica, like any other insurance, we pay a premium at regular intervals, and those premiums also go to the World Bank. They hold custody of it, and in the event that it is not triggered, then the investors, they get that as basically the return on their investment.
Yep,
Really?
I think it comes up to like 24 billion Jamaican dollars.
Right. So the proceeds of that bond go into our National Natural Disaster Reserve Fund. All the proceeds of all our emergency instruments go into that fund. And the Minister of Finance, now when they go into Parliament, they have to make a statement, accounting for all the money that goes into that fund and where it will be spent in a matter of a couple of days.
Really?
Max 1 to 2 weeks, because, it has been triggered. There's no doubt about that. You and I can go on the internet, we can see the data in terms of what the pressure of the storm is, where it passed. It's just for independent verifiers to really say what the payout is going to be, but it's going to be highly likely that it's 100% because it was so severe. So, and I should mention, it's not the only insurance instrument that Jamaica has. So,
what else do we have that we're going to benefit from?
So Jamaica would now have benefited from the largest ever payout from the Caribbean Catastrophe Risk Insurance Facility, CRIF, of around 71 million US under its its tropical cyclone policy. So we have two policies with CRIF. Tropical cyclone, which is for wind damage, and excess rainfall, which is for rain. We're still waiting on a payout for excess rainfall of around 31 million US. That's the max we can get. On the tropical cyclone, we got 71 million or 11.5 billion Jamaican. So in total, we expect so far, when you add the two of them, about 35 billion.
Did you say we never got it in Gilbert, or you said we did get it?
So it didn't exist during Gilbert.
It didn't exist.
But had we had a catastrophe bond, we would have gotten a 70% payout.
Okay. So this is the first we're getting something from a catastrophe bond.
Right. And so the catastrophe bond was placed by the World Bank in 2021. The initial coverage expired last year, but it was renewed last year, and it brings us coverage up to 2027.
And why did we not get it for burial? Because burial was kind of wicked too still. I know it wasn't category 5, I understand that. But
right. So because of burial's atmospheric pressure, which was around 960 millibars, it passed through areas in the grid that it needed to have been 950 millibars or lower than that. So as a result, it didn't trigger, even though it went through some of the grids and the trajectory was applicable, the pressure was not low enough. Well, these payouts are really now for immediate short-term relief. So we're talking about on the ground, people getting back on their feet. It's completely fungible. The government can decide whichever way it wants to spend it. There are no restrictions on it. But longer-term reconstruction now has to be planned. And estimates suggest that it could be at least 10 billion US dollars. So for context,
10 billion US.
Right. That is around 50% of Jamaica's GDP.
Wow.
It could be around 14 billion US, 75% of Jamaica's GDP. So that dwarfs, what the damage from Ivan, from Gilbert, and that's going to take years. That won't take 1 year or 2 years. That will take several budget cycles over several years. The government will now need to plan that in the budget every single year for long-term reconstruction. Because we now are covered until the end of 2027. So it covers the hurricane season next year, the season after that. Our premiums might go up after that, but then the capital market...
It's worth it, though. It's worth it.
Yeah, they might determine it's worth it. It's a very high-risk instrument, but you have high-risk investors who are willing to put their money there. And as a result, they get a higher payout if there's no storm. We get a higher payout if there is one.
Oh, fantastic.
Mercy.
Well explained, sir.
I just wanted to bring you this information for those who don't know that the country have an insurance, but it only trigger if the hurricane is at a certain level. And as he explained, that those hurricanes before did not reach that level in terms of pressure. And then before that, the one who would reach that level, we did not have the insurance then. So this video is just to bring you some information that for those who do not know these information. But I wanted to bring it on this channel so that I could share with you. And please remember to subscribe to the channel and give us a like. And have a wonderful day. Just a food for thought.
Catastrophe bonds can also have specific triggers based on events or loss thresholds. Pricing these bonds may involve complex modeling of multiple event triggers or seasonal variations in risk intensity. For instance, bonds that cover seasonal risks, like hurricanes, may have prices that vary depending on when they are issued relative to the peak risk period. Bonds issued closer to peak times tend to trade at a premium, while those issued further away may trade at a discount. From the perspective of insurance, pricing catastrophe bonds is similar to traditional reinsurance pricing. The premium or rate is set to cover expected losses plus a margin for risk. The bond market adds transparency and liquidity by quantifying these components in the bond's spread and coupon payments. In summary, the pricing of catastrophe bonds is influenced by modeled expected losses, a risk premium for investor compensation, the interest rate environment, and specific bond features like trigger mechanisms and seasonal timing. This pricing approach allows insurers and reinsurers to transfer catastrophic risk efficiently while offering investors a return linked to the occurrence or non-occurrence of defined disaster events.